What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and we've talked a lot about the wide receiver prospects that the Giants might target with the number 6 overall pick. Your Malik Neighbors, your Marvin Harrison Jr., your Rome Odunzes of the world. These are all guys that the Giants could take in the top 10, but what if they go in a different direction? What if the Giants end up taking a quarterback with the number 6 overall pick, or maybe trading up with some of their future draft capital and drafting a quarterback in the first round? Who could they target on day 2 as potential wide receiver targets? Because let's face it, wide receiver is a huge need for the New York Giants. You can debate which is the bigger need, quarterback, wide receiver. They're both up there and they stack up pretty well against each other as massive needs for the New York Giants. The Giants have not had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2018, and while there's a very good chance that they could draft one of those guys at number 6 overall and immediately get 1,000-yard receiving production out of one of them, you do have to make the argument that a quarterback could maximize the talent of the receivers around him a little bit better if the Giants want to go that direction. So then who do they draft on day 2? Because they're going to have to address the wide receiver position at some point in this draft, and there are a lot of targets in this very deep wide receiver draft class that could stand out on the second day of the draft and be potential home run hits for the Giants in round 2. And we want to talk about a few of those players, whether it's Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, Keon Coleman out of Florida State, or any of these other prospects that you guys might be excited about. We just want to go ahead and dive into who these guys could be in round 2 or maybe even round 3 of the draft for the New York Giants to target at the wide receiver position. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on some of these wide receivers that the Giants could target in the second round of the draft?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day outside in New York. I don't know if you guys are here up in New York, but wow, just an absolutely gorgeous day, and it's a great time to talk about some second round receivers because as we know, the Giants have done a substantial amount of work on the quarterback class. The interest is real. It's not a smokescreen. They've said contingencies to Michael Penix, to Caleb Williams, to Jaden Daniels, to they're bringing in Drake May this upcoming week. JJ McCarthy, they've met with him like 4 times. Like, the interest is real, guys. You don't send this much and allocate this many resources just for it to be a smokescreen. I think if there is a guy they like, they will make the move. And with the probability being, I'd say, 60% chance they end up with a quarterback in the first round. That's my personal opinion on it. It's really important that we look at some receivers in the second round that could be really good players. And honestly, I think there are some substantial talents that at 47, if not moving up a couple spots, we could get some really great value there. And, guys that maybe could develop into WR1s or have the skill set to be instant impact players at the NFL level. And, let's start out with your favorite guy, Anthony, and Xavier Legette, and a 6'1". I know PFF has him as 6'3", but he's 6'1", 227 pounds, really good size. He's 23 years old, so a little bit older, coming from South Carolina. Obviously, the quarterback there being Spencer Rattler. Had a really solid season, 3.15 yards per route run. At a 2.7% drop rate, only 2 drops this past season. Overall, he tied for 15th in deep catches with 13. He was tied for 13th with 554 deep yards. Overall, he was a really, really solid player. Had 10 contested catches as well. Underrated route runner, and he killed the Senior Bowl. He looked fantastic. A lot of people were talking about his performance, and after shaking off a little bit of a down first day, I think he ended up looking excellent, and he's taken some big developmental steps. Obviously, a little bit older than some of the other guys we're going to discuss in this video, but Xavier Legette certainly has the skill set and the size to be an instant impact player for the Giants, and ultimately offer them that size they're kind of missing. We have guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, we have guys like Jalen Hyatt, speedsters, and Darius Slayton, but we don't have that big body that can, really come down with those contested catches, that physical presence, but also a little bit more than that. So, tell me why you think Xavier Legette would be a good fit on the Giants, what you like about him, and if you think he'll be available there at 47.
Ultimately, I do think he'll be there at 47, though it's kind of tough to tell. I do expect there to be some sort of a run on wide receivers early in the second round and late in the first round. I think they're just going to fly off the board for a little while, but picking at number 47, middle of that second round, I think there's a really solid chance that the Giants could end up landing Xavier Legette with that pick if they decide to go wide receiver. And you guys know, I would think that's a home run. I love Xavier Legette. There is a large fan base of Xavier Legette truthers who believe he should be a first round pick. but there are definitely some flaws in his game and some reasons for hesitancy that will push him into the second round, one of them being his late breakout. Not having your breakout season until your fifth year in college is definitely a cause for concern. We've seen a lot of wide receiver prospects come out of school really talented in their final year of college, finally have that breakout, but it seems like they've already hit their ceiling because of how late they had that breakout. So that's a cause for concern with Xavier Legette. But if you look past that and kind of look at the full story, Xavier Legette had a very tumultuous career through high school where he wanted to play receiver. They forced him to play quarterback. They moved him all over the place. He sat behind a lot of talent during his collegiate career and wasn't given an opportunity. But as soon as he was given the opportunity to be a starter and be a focal point in South Carolina's offense, man, did he rise to the occasion and have that breakout. And one of the things that I love about Xavier Legette is how underrated he is truly as a route runner. Now, a lot of these big physical guys who get these comparisons to NFL wide receivers like A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf, and those are players that Legette gets compared to, a lot of them aren't sharp route runners, but for me, I think that Legette is a very solid route runner on the outside of the field. He does a great job running those slant routes and creating quick separation. He does a great job stacking cornerbacks and getting vertical on running those 9 routes, but also can peel it back on a nice comeback or a curl route as well. He's got very good stop-start ability, and really the quality of stopping on a dime, he has that, and it's very rare to see that possessed by a player of his size with his physicality. And it's the physicality that could really make him a difference maker for the New York Giants because they do have size on the outside with Darius Slayton, right? Darius Slayton is 6'2". He can go up there and get it every now and then, but he's not as physical as Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette with the ball in his hands will run through you, will punch you in the mouth on the line of scrimmage if you try and jam him. He is a big presence at that wide receiver spot. And while 6'1", he is technically shorter than Darius Slayton. He's faster with the 4.39 40, and he also jumps really high at a great vertical jump at the combine, and it shows up on his game film. His catch radius is insane. His ability to pluck the ball out of the air and play with strength and physicality is something that you will oogle over if you watch the film on Xavier Legette. So one of my favorite prospects to watch in this draft class, and if he were to land into the Giants' lap with the number 47 overall pick, I would be ecstatic. I love Xavier Legette. I think everything that he brings to the table translates to the NFL, and with the proper coaching and development, as long as he really hasn't hit that ceiling as a fifth-year breakout, if there is more to unlock there, maybe he does refine his routes and open up his route tree a little bit more, he could become a complete skill set wide receiver in the NFL. Right now, his skill set may be a little bit limited, didn't run the fullest route tree. Again, a lot of 9 routes, comeback routes, and slant routes. But at the next level, if he's able to expand that, he could become an every down receiver and become a real big focal point in an NFL offense. So very high on Legette. Think he would be an excellent pick for the Giants with a number 47 overall pick. But Alex, I want to talk about another player who we've started to discuss a little bit on this channel here and there. He's on the cover of this episode, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. Tell me why you like him so much, the 6'1", 189-pound player. He's got the ability to make some really insane highlight grabs. I'm sure that many of you have seen the backhanded, one-handed catch that he had over the middle of the field that was all over SportsCenter for months, right? Ricky Pearsall has some wow plays on his film, but he's also a pretty technically sound and gifted wide receiver. Alex, what do you like about Ricky Pearsall out of Florida?
Well, one thing for sure, he's probably going to be there in the second round, if not at 47, and he can operate in a lot of portions of the field, which I like. Obviously 6'1", 189 pounds, good size. Like, he's not a Wan'Dale Robinson. He's not tiny and only a slot option. He does primarily work out of the slot, but I do like him to be a little bit more versatile at the NFL level. The highlight grabs, they're not just highlight grabs. They're like OBJ highlight grabs. They're ridiculous one-handed catches. They're incredible contact balance. They're incredible concentration grabs. Like, you're not going to find players like this all the time. You're talking about playmakers here. And at Florida, obviously, not the best offense in college football, but, he still managed to make an impact. He had the 8th highest athleticism score at the combine, ran a 4.41, plenty of speed there, 1.57 10-yard split, 6.64 3-cone drill. So, there are some things to be desired, but he is a very, very talented player. Had a 3% drop, only dropped 2 passes this past season. So obviously you can see he has really short hands, 11 deep catches. So he tied 34th there, but not bad for a guy that works primarily out of the slot. I just think he can operate in a lot of different portions of the field. The Giants need guys who not are only deep threats. They need short to intermediate. I think Wan'Dale's more of a short threat. We were talking about this yesterday, Anthony, actually, in terms of what kind of receiver the Giants kind of need. Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt are go route, like deep threats. That is what they do. Darius Slayton sometimes operates on these crossers, and so does Hyatt, but it's rare in context with how many targets they get. You have Wandale Robinson as that primary short target guy, and then obviously Daniel Bellinger, who's kind of a short target. Darren Waller's been primarily their intermediate option there, and Hodgins too. I would love a guy like Pearsall because not only is he a really good short, route runner, but also intermediate. He can help you in that portion of the field, attack the middle. He was dominant when quarterbacks through the middle of the field last year. So if you get a quarterback who's good at throwing to the middle and taking risks there, like honestly, like a Drake May, Ricky Pearsall seems like a really good match to me. I would love that combination. Obviously, you got to get lucky to get a guy like Drake May, especially because we're at the 6th overall pick. But you can never say never in this world. I think JJ McCarthy's getting a lot of hype. We don't know where he's going to go. Some people have him mocked to 2. I think Diana Rossini, maybe yesterday even said on NFL Network, or was it one of those shows, that the Patriots are not locked into the 3rd spot. So who knows what they're going to do there. They may not go quarterback. They're definitely scouting all of them, but you never really know. And right now, a guy like Ricky Pearsall, really good hands, good size, really good route runner, crafty as hell, twitchy, quick. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a little bit worse. I'd rather have Lad McConkey. That's my preference in terms of doing so many things inside and out. But Pearsall is a really nice consolation prize if you don't get Lad McConkey, and I think that he could be a really good player. Some people have him matched up along with, in terms of his athleticism, with Chris Olave. Really similar height, similar weight, similar 40-yard dash times. That's an interesting one to me. I think Chris Olave is a little bit more of a refined player in terms of his capabilities down the field. We saw the Saints take a lot of shots to him downfield last season, but I wouldn't rule out Pearsall as an option to be kind of utilized all across the field, and that's kind of what I like about him. He's not just a one-trick pony. The Giants have drafted a lot of one-trick ponies. Hyatt, Slayton, Wandale, they're very, very specific types of receivers, and they operate in very specific ways. I think Pearsall has a little bit more to his game, and as he gets used to that NFL level, I think could be a really solid player. He is a bit older at 23. He's going to be 24 in his rookie season, and the next guy we're going to talk about here, the third player in this list, is really young. So there's a lot of different aspects of this. But what do you like about Ricky Pearsall in terms of what he could offer this Giants team? I do like his ability to operate in different portions of the field, which is kind of what we need.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall can be a playmaker for you at every level of the field. All 4 of his touchdowns this past season were on 20-plus yard passes, which I think is notable. But also, how about his production behind the line of scrimmage? 24 targets on screen passes. That's really solid, and he made a lot of plays after the catch on those screens. 7.9 yards after the catch per reception, 158 total yards after the catch, and 114 in total from behind the line of scrimmage. So this is a guy who not only can make those plays, run those routes in the middle of the field, like you mentioned, and be an intermediate receiving threat, but if you want him to be a little bit of a gadget player, catch balls behind the line of scrimmage, maybe bring him on some end around, some jet sweeps, whatever it is, he's got the yards after the catch ability, he's got the ability to run routes, create separation, get himself open past the line of scrimmage, and even past the sticks. So Ricky Pearsall has a pretty complete game. Maybe he's a little bit limited. Maybe he's not exactly one of these players that you're going to find in the first round. Of course, Malik Neighbors, yards after the catch, makes plays at all 3 levels. We're not talking about those kind of guys. We're talking about this guy on day 2 for a reason. But if you want someone who has that versatility in their route tree and ability to play more than one role on your offense, on day 2, Ricky Pearsall might be the guy who does that the best of the players that could potentially be available with the number 47 overall pick. Now, contested catches, didn't have many opportunities. This is not a guy that you're going to throw 50-50 balls to and expect him to bring them down all the time. While he's got the ability to, it's really not his game. He's more of those crafty players who likes to separate and get open, and for what it's worth, separators, those guys tend to succeed far more at the next level than those contested catch grab guys, which is one of the players that we're about to talk about next. Alex, I heard you hint that you want to talk about this really young wide receiver that goes up there, jumps out of the gym, makes these contested catches. I know who you're talking about. It's Keon Coleman out of FSU, a player that I do really like, but there are definitely some concerns to his game. He's not a big separator, but yeah, the highlights are there. He was a former Michigan State basketball commit. The athleticism is there. Guy jumps out of the gym. You saw it at the combine. Didn't have the fastest 40-yard dash, but ran in the gauntlet drill with the fastest average mile per hour, like 21 miles per hour or whatever. He ran the gauntlet drill. That's impressive. And you know what that tells me? Maybe he doesn't run the best in underwear in a straight yard dash, but he does run with excellent game speed, and that does show up on his film to me. I thought that Keon Coleman, when he would get the ball in space and just hit that straight line, there was really no catching him. And I really love how he catches the ball in stride and doesn't lose a step. But also, when he doesn't catch the ball in stride, and it's 50-50, it really feels 60-40 with Keon Coleman. He's 6'4", he's 215 pounds, he's got a huge frame, and again, he's got the ability to jump over you and pluck that ball out of the air with a massive catch radius. There is a lot to like with Keon Coleman, and like you said, very young. Inexperienced for sure, didn't run the fullest route tree, doesn't really get open all that much, not the biggest separator, but there are certain skills to his game and different tools to craft here where if you've got him in the right situation with the right coach and the right quarterback who could throw him more accurate passes than, frankly, Jordan Travis did at FSU, but shout out to Jordan Travis, Palm Beach Gardens native. If you get him with the right quarterback and the right offense, there is so much untapped potential in Keon Coleman, which is why if you want to take a flyer on a developmental guy at number 47 with a boom or bust ceiling and floor, Keon Coleman is probably your guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to like Keon Coleman. Number one, he's 3 years younger than Leggett and Ricky Pearsall. So you can make a strong argument his frame is not fully built out. You can make a strong argument that his top speed is not even fully reached because of that age. You know, he's the same age as Malik Neighbors, which, by the way, is why Neighbors is a top 5 pick or even a top 6, because he's got that ridiculous qualities and he's younger than the rest of them. But, you know, Keon Coleman, the way I view him is this. If you're going to draft a quarterback and you want a receiver to develop alongside that quarterback, I really like Coleman to be that complementary piece that takes those steps forward, develops that chemistry. He has quintessential size at 6'3", 215 pounds, ridiculous size. Like that's what you are looking for in a top flight receiver. Those exact metrics. Like you said, jumps out of the gym, incredible athleticism. His speed run a 4.61, I believe, at the combine, as you said. Like it's just not gonna blow you away. He's not gonna beat man coverage like right off the bat because of that lack of speed. He's going to get blanketed at times, but if you throw that thing within his catch radius, he's coming down with it. I think he dropped 2 passes last year, got a hell of a lot of targets. He's inexperienced. He's going to get better with more experience at the NFL level as he refines his route tree, gets on an NFL diet, you know, gets those explosion strategies under his belt, those like plyometrics, whatever it might be, to help improve his speed, agility, and whatnot. I think that there is a real perspective to think that he could turn into something truly special. And if you're the Giants and you're going for upside and I think Ricky Pearsall, his upside, like, I don't know if he's going to get much better than he is right now. I think he's already a really good player. I think he could be a very solid NFL player, but I think he's already a tremendous route runner, top flight route runner, really good hands. You know, Xavier Leggett, I don't know how much better he's going to get, but I can tell you for sure, I think that Keon Coleman probably has the most room to grow than of these 3 receivers. So if you're talking about it from a perspective of development and growth, I would love to see the Giants pair him with a young quarterback to develop year over year, get better, and really ride that train to success and hopefully developing really good chemistry with a young quarterback. So Coleman, quintessential size, really good athletic profile for, you know, contested catches, jumping out of the gym, is the best way you put it before. I really like this player as an option for the Giants at 47. Now there are others, you know, Jalen Polk maybe a little bit later, but like after that second tier, I think the fall off is pretty steep. After like Leggett, Coleman, and Ricky Pearsall, I think that the fall off could be a little bit steep there. So if the Giants are keen on getting one of those guys, given they maintain this 47th overall pick, because we're assuming that they don't have to move it to get a quarterback, you're probably going to get one of these 3 guys available, and I think you don't waste that pick. You get the receiver with a ton of upside, develop him, get him on an NFL diet, get him in your gym, and you go from there. I do think that Coleman probably has the most upside to grow, but Pearsall and Leggett are certainly instant impact players, and I think that's the way I'd probably look at it. I think Leggett and Pearsall probably have the more instant impact, but Coleman may have the bigger future impact.
Yeah, like I said, I think Coleman is probably the biggest ball of clay that you're going to find in the second round that you could sculpt into a true perimeter threat for you in an NFL offense. If you look at his metrics, his 40-yard dash, like you said, a 4.61. How about compare that to an NFL or a New York Giants legend, rather, Plaxico Burress, who ran a 4.59. Very similar, also similar height, both around 6'4", also very large. Plaxico Burress weighed quite a bit more, which is the concern with Coleman. He doesn't weigh a whole lot at that 215 and ran that slow 40. Plaxico Burress had an extra 20 pounds. He was weighing in around 230 pounds and ran the 4.59, so still faster. But still, when you watch those two guys' plays, they're both really dynamic, physical, jump out of the gym, make those contested grabs. I see a lot of similarities between Plaxico Burress and Keon Coleman. I also see similarities to Des Bryant because Coleman, like I said, with his athleticism, he's actually really good after the catch, which you wouldn't probably expect because he's not a big separator and he's not smaller, he's not compact, and he doesn't have that straight line speed. But he returned punts for Florida State, and he did a lot after the catch, caught a lot of screen passes as well. I really like his ability after the catch, which is why he reminds me in some ways of Des Bryant. But Alex, I do want to talk about a few other wide receiver prospects before we get out of here. Maybe not spend as much time on these guys. But one player that I do want to hit on here is Troy Franklin out of Oregon. Now, that's a guy who I'm not super crazy about. Some view him as a potential first-round prospect. I think he's definitely a day two guy. Maybe he's on the board for the Giants at 47. But I'm just going to say I don't think he's necessarily an option for the Giants because what he does really well is what Jalen Hyatt does really well. Runs on a straight line, separates vertically, and becomes a vertical threat in your offense to open things up for you underneath. But there are a lot of traits to like about his game. He's super fast. He's got a great first step and a release package, but he's not really a refined route runner. Alex, I guess more so than asking you your take on Troy Franklin, how do you feel about these speed guys in the second round? Do you think there are any that the Giants could maybe look at and say, hey, I would love to combine him with Jalen Hyatt, have two vertical deep threat guys to add to this offense? Or do you think overall the Giants probably shouldn't be stacking skill sets and need to find someone with a different skill set there in the second round?
I mean, look, Lance Zierlein, if you look at his draft profile, an NFC scouting director told him he's not as explosive as Jalen Hyatt was coming out, but I look at him in a similar way with what he can do for your offense and what you won't ask him to do. He's a better route runner than Hyatt. So, you're getting, and look, Hyatt after his rookie season, maybe he's caught up to like that route tree in terms of what Troy Franklin is capable of doing. I don't think we need to stack another speedy receiver. I think there are a dime a dozen in the draft most years. If you want to go get another one, you could probably wait until next year and get one in the second round, and when Darius Slayton's contract expires, and just replace him with another speedster, or you just find someone on the free agent market. These guys are always available. So I think I'm looking for a little bit more of a separator. Someone who can really generate their own separation, not just on deep passes, but also on quick throws. Because the truth is, as long as our offensive line is bad, we need guys who can separate early. And again, I think we're going to be better this year, but prove it. Like, until proven otherwise, we have the worst pass blocking unit in the game. And I think that's my take for now. I think we're going to be better, but I got to see it first. So assuming that it's going to be exactly the same, I think we need guys that can separate earlier on in routes instead of waiting for these deep passes, because ultimately they're just not sustainable. And if that's your entire offensive game plan, eventually they're going to start to catch on. You're going to get toasted. You're going to get cooked. So I kind of feel like the Giants need more guys who can get open earlier on in the route tree, and that will give them a little bit more of an outlet to produce without necessarily relying on the deep ball. So that's why I favor guys like Ricky Pearsall. Even Leggett has that capability. He can do a little bit more in the intermediate range than even maybe Keon Coleman can.
I agree with you on that one. I think, listen, Troy Franklin, there's a lot to like. I think in an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, just go deep, get open, kind of replace Marcus Valdez-Scantling after they lost him in free agency. That seems like a perfect fit for me. I do think Troy Franklin's a good player. One last guy that I do want to touch on, Alex, and then I'll give you a chance to kind of throw any other names out there that you want to maybe touch on before you wrap. I'm sure you'd like to say a couple words about Malachi Corley. I'm just going to throw out there Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. This is a guy who realistically, if he didn't have certain red flags in his character, might be viewed in some draft classes as a day one pick. But now he's viewed as a day two, maybe day three pick, and that's kind of the conversation that I want to have with him, Alex. If this is a player that you, or maybe if you're an NFL GM or a scout, you view as a first round talent that you can snag in the third, fourth, maybe even fifth round due to character flags, do you wait on him? Do you just not touch him because of character flag or red flags? We've seen the Giants get burned by red flags due to character. Kadarius Toney, DeAndre Baker, these guys had off the field problems that ultimately ruined their NFL careers. So from that perspective, is Jermaine Burton a guy you don't touch with a 10-foot pole? You just say, screw it, I don't want anybody with red flags? Or do you look at him and say, hey, dynamic route runner, didn't play a large role in Alabama's offense because, well, they didn't really throw the ball too well this past season, but when he had the opportunities to make plays, man, he made them. Has a very shifty athletic profile. If you actually look at his relative athletic score, it compares, and his measurements and everything compares very similarly to Odell Beckham Jr. So has that kind of athleticism that OBJ had. Not saying he's the same player, but playing style is similar. Does have a lot of great route running reps on his film as a Z receiver, as a vertical threat for sure, has a lot of speed over the top, but also making plays in the red zone. He was really good there. There's a lot to like about Jermaine Burton's skill set. And again, I've read before that some scouts view him as a potential first round talent that you don't take until the third day because you don't know. A lot of prima donna action, crying for the football on the sideline at Alabama. Had an incident where he got a little rough after a game with fans who were rushing the field. That's the big red flag character moment for him. How do you feel about that? Is this a situation now where the Giants have been burned on players like in the past, so you're not taking guys with red character flags? Or if the value is there later on, if he's there in day 3 and you view him as a day 1 guy, do you maybe take the chance on him? I'm curious to know your thought process on a player like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is that the Giants, I just don't think that Mara's going to let them go out and get somebody with like red flags per se. I think he hit some girl after a game or something like that, and like that's not good. Again, like in the NFL, you don't have fans storming the field, so like it's not going to happen. But you put someone with character concerns in New York City, we've seen them. We've seen what it does to people. You know what I mean? We've seen what it's done, especially when the media gets a hold of it. We know they're going to run these guys out of town. We know they're going to bury players like this. So, you know, if they meet with Jermaine Burton, they're like, you know, we don't see these concerns. He's a good dude, made his mistake. He learned from it. Nick Saban didn't even punish him for the incident. Maybe it was like more of an accident. Maybe he was just like caught up in something. I don't really know. I didn't see the video. If there may be more red flags I'm unaware of. So if you do know more of them, please drop them in the comments because I could be missing stuff here. But if it was only that incident, the Giants meet up with him and they're like, yeah, like, you know, there's not that big of a concern here. We're not worried about it. You know, he learned from it. You know, he went to therapy. He went to anger management. I don't know. Could have done anything here. School could have made him go to these things. Then yeah, whatever. It is what it is. And they give him a passing grade, and he could be like you said, first round talent you can get in the second round. In another draft class, he's a first round talent. You know what I mean? So a lot of people said guys like Tyrann Mathieu had red flag concerns and stuff like that. So, and he ended up being fine. It's not unusual for players to have some red flags. For goodness sake, Kayvon Thibodeau had red flags last year. He's been a great guy for us. So you never really know. Again, I may be missing something big here, so please let me know if I am. Like hitting some pregnant woman or something like that. I don't know. But, you know, like right now I don't necessarily think if it was something more serious, then yeah, sure, I'd probably ignore it, but I'd give the Giants a benefit of the doubt, meeting with him, learning his personality, seeing if he's a good fit. If he's not, you don't even touch him. But if he is a good fit, then maybe you consider him at a value grab position in the second round. Maybe he even drops to the third and you move up if people are that concerned about him. We've seen crazier things happen, like Azeez Ojulari falling to 51. Not to mention he's been injured this entire time, but it was for different injuries. It wasn't his knee. He's been injured with his calf and ankle and this and that. So the knee injury itself hasn't been the primary factor in his demise. But yeah, Jermaine Burton's an interesting one. Really good player. Obviously, the concerns are there. I'd rather, you know me. Malachi Corley is my guy out of Western Kentucky. Has a really the guy is just a freaking brick with legs. What I like the most about him is that they eliminated the hip drop tackle, and that is directly going to benefit guys like Malachi Corley because you cannot tackle him. If you're a DB, you simply can't tackle him. Let him return kicks. Let him return punts. Let him do all the dirty work. Get him involved in the screen game. Get him out with blockers in front. The guy is going to break tackles and make moves, and he can be an extension to your running game. He's just a gadget weapon all over the field. He's not like this traditional receiver. But again, like, the NFL's going in a direction where you need like these unique kind of weapons that can do it all. The Chiefs have been doing it with players for years, getting like McCole Hardman involved in all these different crazy ways, and then he goes to the Jets and doesn't even make the team. You know what I mean? Doesn't even play, and then he catches a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like, you know, good teams, good coordinators find ways to maximize strengths. Malachi Corley has elite contact balance, elite physicality, and he's a freaking baller. Like, he gets excited. He's explosive. Now, I think that his stock is rising really fast. Apparently, there was a ton of teams at his Western Kentucky Pro Day, and God knows he was the only one that the people were watching because I don't think there's many other players from Western Kentucky. But Malachi Corley at 47, look, if the Giants look at him and say, this guy could be a weapon for us in all facets, we could use him as a punt returner, as a kick returner, extension to the run game, get him involved in the screen game, get him involved in the short to intermediate ranges of the field. He has underrated hands. His route running is a little bit more refined than people gave him credit for. At the Senior Bowl, he showcased that. He put some guys in the freaking dust. He is strong as hell. Just mold him. Like you talk about a ball of clay. He is literally a ball of clay. Like, literally take him and use him in any single way you want. He's a freaking tank, and people are gonna disrespect him early on. They're not gonna pay much attention to him. Get him the rock and let him operate. I swear, this guy in the right offense is gonna be an absolute weapon. God forbid he goes to the Chiefs. I feel like that's possibility. He's gonna be an absolute monster for them. I could even see him being really good on like a team like Houston or even the Rams. The Giants need playmakers. The Giants need guys that make plays, grind out extra yards, play physical, smash mouth football. We have too many injury-prone guys, too many guys that are just weak and fast and this and that. Let's go get someone who's going to bury a guy in the dust and leave him 10 yards behind. That's what Malachi Corley is going to do for you. Again, you can hear the way I speak about him. I love Malachi Corley. I think he's going to be great in the right system and the right team. I think the Giants need more players like this, and I would love to see him with Big Blue.
Yeah, listen, I'm not as high on Malachi Corley as you. I think that he needs to work on his routes, refine his route tree, add more to his repertoire than just being the screen guy who smashes people in the mouth. But there's value in a player like that as well. And I do think that he would be an exciting pick for the Giants. Maybe not in round 2, but once we get into round 3, he might still be there. But like you said, a lot of scouts at his pro day. Draft stock seems to be rising. We'll see where he lands. And ultimately, we're talking about all of these guys that might be there for the Giants at number 47. What if none of them are there at number 47? Who knows? The NFL draft is such an interesting event because we think we know where certain guys are going to go, but we never truly know. Every now and then, somebody falls really far in the draft or somebody gets taken way sooner than expected, like when the Giants took Kadarius Toney in the first round and nobody expected him to go in the first round. What a pick that was by the New York Giants and Dave Gettleman. I digress, though. We don't know where these players are going to go, but it's really interesting to take a look at the options that could be there for the New York Giants in the number 47 overall pick, and those are some of the wide receivers. Maybe in the next episode, we'll talk about some of the cornerbacks, because I think cornerback could be a target for the Giants at number 47 and maybe even number 70. So it's a deep draft class. There's a lot of talent at certain positions. Quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback being the three that really stand out in this year's class. Even defensive linemen. I think there's a lot of interior defenders that the Giants might be interested in if they want to add some more beef alongside Dexter Lawrence on their defensive line. So we're going to continue to dive into all of these draft prospects. We've got under a month to go before the NFL draft, and man, I am excited for the NFL draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I told you guys, we've got a 20K subscribers special live stream, something planned coming soon. And then after that, that'll be our midway point between now and the NFL draft. We'll hit you with a 20K special. Then we're going to hit you with the NFL draft live stream. And that's the one I just cannot wait for. Live reacting to the picks. If the Giants make a draft night trade, it's going to be really fun to show our reactions live for you guys. If the Giants draft a player that we really like, we're going to get excited. If they draft a player that we really don't want, you're going to see our raw reaction to that as well. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.